Ulavinaka Fiji, and a warm welcome to Speak Your Mind. I'm Louise Kaunisela, your host. Now, severe tropical cyclone Yasa, a Category 5 system, was the strongest in the South Pacific since Winston in 2016. It hit just before the Christmas season, leaving affected Fijians fighting for survival after the storm's passing. When a Royal New Zealand Air Force inspection flight flew over the areas affected to further assess damage, it was compared to that of a war zone. Australia sent the HMAS Adelaide, carrying personnel from the Australian Army's 6th Engineering Support Regiment and equipment to assist Fiji in its recovery efforts. Vinaka Vakalevu. Now, the National Disaster Management Office is the coordinating centre for the Fiji government in times of natural disasters. My guest in the studio today is the director of the NDMO, Vasiti Soko. Thank you so much for taking out the time to be here today. I know you must have a hectic schedule, but yes, welcome, and we'll just get straight into it. Shortly after TC Yasa made landfall in the country, what was the immediate response from the NDMO?
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us this morning. We've just returned from the Northern Division. We've had our emergency committee briefing as well again this morning. With regards to TC Yasa and the immediate response, shortly, or for us, 12 hours after impact, that's a critical stage for government where we need to step in and identify our life-saving mechanisms. And therefore, with TC Yasa passing, government first priority was to identify any injured, those homes that were destroyed, those that are maybe trapped, and those that are in need that needed to be saved. So that was immediate response that was deployed. We were fortunate that when government was taken, or in this case, we were able to fly personnel up to the north immediately after Yasa passed. Even though it was still on Fiji waters, we were able to fly across. We were given clearance to fly across, and therefore we were able to identify the need on the ground, very quickly, which led to the deployment of food rations and non-food items as well as water.
I know, for us, we didn't feel anything, and we don't realize, the amount of work that you're doing at the moment. So how many people lost their lives because of TC Yasa?
We have a total confirmed at 4, with 1 still missing. But in regards to those that were impacted or those that were affected, the rough figure is around 49,441 is the number that we are looking at. So at first, when we did our response, like I said, it was for life-saving. And then we moved into rehabilitating those homes that were destroyed. How best, these are the ones that were occupying the evacuation centers. So how best we can assist them to move back to their homes. So that was our second priority. And then we looked into the farms, those farmers that had their crops damaged. How best can government come in to support them?
Oh, thank you so much. But compared to Cyclone Winston, the deaths weren't as many. I remember Winston was about 44. So, that's actually a good sign. But what kinds of damage was caused in the north after TC Yasa?
Before I jump into that, maybe I should quickly address the Winston. After Winston, there was a lot of lesson learned from that. There was a lot of policies that were developed, a lot of protocols that were developed in addition to that. We even revised our emergency operation manuals on how we could better or effectively respond to an emergency. And we've worked very closely with our partners to ensure that in an event of an emergency, that it's one approach by all. And it clearly showed in Harold. It also clearly showed in Yasa when the government went in to respond and then was well supported by partners. And at peacetime, we do a lot of awareness training to community level to train them on how they respond to a disaster. So we've done more than 300 communities, and we are still at peacetime continue to work with our partners to do community-based disaster risk training, where we train them how they respond. So all this effort that government has done outside cyclone season, it has eventuated, or you could say, has materialized which is why we have a big reduction in Cat 5 Yassa as compared to Winston.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really good to know, because I know that because of this, people have heeded warnings better and they are more prepared. Yes. Yeah. So again, what kinds of damage was caused in the north after TC Yassa, or maybe further than the north?
Yeah. Similar to the Eastern Division as well. For the north, a majority of most of the damage were done on infrastructure.
Yeah.
Housing, road, bridges, as well as farms. I could say a lot of farmers, being that the Northern Division, majority of them are farmers, are backbones to our farming industry or to our agriculture industry. They were severely affected as well. So these are all areas that government is currently analyzing how best we can further support those that have been severely affected.
Thank you so much. On Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. We'll be back in a moment. We're back on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits, and it's really good to have your company. I have a very important person in the studio with us. I'm really proud that we have a female as the director now for the National Disaster Management Office, and it is, of course, Vasiti Soko, who has been doing a great job. Thank you so much. So on to my next question. How many schools has the Australian Defence and the RFMF fixed so far?
Okay. When the HMS Adelaide arrived in Fiji, we worked around the tasking that they needed to do. It was quite clear before they departed that they were going to focus on education or the education sector. And so RFMF joined them on the ground. Again, there was a lot of research that went behind how best we can control the COVID-19 or how best we can maintain the protocol of COVID-19 while we get them to come.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we were able to then, put them into clusters. The ones that came out first to fix Ngaloa. That was one bubble that, with guidance from Ministry of Health, who took the lead role in this effort, we were able to complete Ngaloa. So in total, there were around 32 schools in the Northern Division that were identified as that needed quick fixing.
Yeah.
And in a period of less than a month, RFMF together with the Australian Defence built temporary shelters, did quick fix. And in this case, Ngaloa, which we commissioned yesterday, rebuilt 2 classrooms and a teacher's room.
So you went all the way to Bua yesterday and you come for the interview today. Okay, so I mean, I saw your post or your Twitter feed, and it's really good that you keep us updated. And I saw some pictures, really nice ones, and how children also received school kits.
Yes.
They must have been so happy, and you must have been happy to see them happy,
Yeah.
I mean, after all that horrible experience that they would have had, at least, something nice at the end of all that terrible cyclone. So the school kits just have like the, what do they have inside?
Okay. The ones that were donated, or in this case supported by the Australian government, upon fixing the building for Ngaloa Primary, they then put in new tables and new chairs.
Oh, wow.
Complemented by that, had backpacks, etc.
Oh, even backpacks too.
Yeah.
How lovely.
So this is while the Australian government was focusing on Ngaloa because that was their first bubble for COVID-19, we had other NGOs and other partners that equally deserves to be praised for coming in and supporting the effort by government on reaching out to students in need. So there's been a lot of partners and NGOs that have worked with us and with Ministry of Education on school packs. This includes backpacks, lunchbox, stationaries, reaching out to those students in the most severe affected schools.
And I'm sure that these school kits probably came from overseas.
Both overseas and local as well.
Okay, so a mix of both.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So that's it with the schools. Thank you very much for the information. So what about the remote areas? That might have been a little bit of a challenge for the National Disaster Management Office. So how did you reach out to people in remote areas?
Like Fovano level, for anybody who knows the topology of Fovano level, and for the farmers, they are very scattered due to the nature of their farms. I know for sure for sugarcane farms, they are very distant from each other, mainly because of in this case, sugarcane in the field, in the yield that they plant. Reaching out to them by vehicle was the first mode of transport. And for those maritime islands, we did the government vessel where we did roll-on, roll-off with the distribution of food rations and NFI, and also inspected homes that were severely affected.
Right. So you spoke about the organizations. I mean, there's so many people that have come together, and it's made it so much easier in, of course, your recovery and response efforts. So I believe that you have many organizations. I don't know if you were able to name them, but I know Fiji Red Cross, I believe UNDRA too. What other organizations played a part too in this recovery effort?
For Fiji Red Cross and FCORS, they are members of the Fiji Disaster Council. They represent for Fiji, for FCORS, the NGOs, their membership, they represent that in the National Disaster Management Council. In addition to that, yes, we do have other NGOs also assisting. You've mentioned a few. We also have the Cyprem Foundation. They were one of the very few ones that, they were one of the many that came in early days after TCIASA passed to assist those that were affected. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, it's not fair to mention any.
To name all of them. Okay, but we'll be back in a while on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. Welcome back to Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. I'm Louise Kaunisela, your host, and my guest is the Director of the National Disaster Management Office, Vasiti Soko. Now, what kinds of donations and relief packs have been given out to TCIASA affected areas, and how are they being distributed?
The majority one, or the first one that were distributed on the ground were food ration and clean water.
Okay.
Like I said, first response was about life saving. So we distributed food rations and water, clean water. In addition to that, that was complemented by tents, tarpaulins, shelter toolkits, hygiene kits, and water tanks. So all these come for us in the disaster phase. We call it the non-food item. So they were all part of what was distributed on the first stage of deployment.
I can imagine must have been a lot of work. I mean, I saw the pictures, how it happens. You know, you have truckloads and you have all these people working together. And we don't realize, I mean, the amount of work that you actually do. So what about the evacuation centers? Did they manage to withstand the extremely strong winds caused by TCIASA, the Category 5 storm?
For the evacuation center, being that the forecast path for TCIASA was in this case, it was going to cut through either the Viti level or the northern, but we're thankful that due to the pressure that came from the south, it pushed it further up to the north, which is why it went the path it went. With the evacuation center, most of our evacuation centers are schools. It is built to withstand cyclone standards as of when it was built at that point in time.
Okay.
With those homes that were destroyed, after the inspection, those were the ones who stayed in the evacuation center until we were able to build them temporary shelters.
Yeah. But the thing is, I remember the night before, like you just mentioned, I actually went to an evacuation center myself because I was just like, oh my goodness me, this wind is too strong. I wasn't sure whether my house was going to take it. So, just for the family,
yes.
I think that's the best thing to do. But, I mean, it did miss Viti Levu, thank goodness. But the night before, I saw how it was going, and it had leaned towards the north. So, that was something that I observed. But I think it's a good thing just to be safe all the time. It could have easily have come to Viti Levu.
That's right.
So I was happy with the decision I made. But did evacuees use the evacuation centers properly? Did they clean up after they left?
That's they normally do that. However, in an event where the evacuation center is left as it is, we have government officials and health inspectors that goes in and disinfect the evacuation centers.
Oh yeah, because of COVID-19 too. So I mean, you will do it anyway. Yeah. So is the NDMO happy with how Fijians had heeded warnings by the Fiji Met Office, as well as the level of preparedness by them?
Yeah, very impressed. I think the Fiji government is very impressed with the way the public responded to the warnings that were issued out, and also acknowledging our partners, our communications family, who also supported our effort and disseminated text blasts that continued to push out to our mobile phones to ensure people are reading what we are also trying to push out, to remind them the need for them to evacuate should the need arise.
Yeah, that's how I found my evacuation center, from the phone. I was like, okay, follow this, it takes you to this, and then you have to pick up a province, I think it was.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then it led me to a province, and then I was thinking, what province am I staying in, So I'm in Dampati,
A bit geography lesson for you in that case.
Yeah, geography lesson. But then I got it right straight away.
That's good.
So I asked my family, okay, ours is at, and we had a lovely evacuation center. It was like going to a hotel. This was international school, by the way. So I have to thank International for giving their school to be in an evacuation center. Lovely place. But yeah, anyway, so what about the vulnerable groups like people living with disabilities, women and children affected by TCIASA? Were they looked after well by the communities and at evacuation centers?
Yeah. So one of the lessons learned that we had from TC Winston is the need to actually look into the vulnerable members of our society. And one of the things that we've worked really well with the divisional commissioners is identifying the locations and the residential homes of where they're. And when it comes to evacuation center, through the divisional commissioners down to their respective district offices, they are able to evacuate them first. And this is very common in the Maritime Islands, in the Lau group, because of the emergency plan that are in place for disaster.
Right.
The youths are the ones that goes to each house and move the elderly as well as the disability to the evacuation center.
That is just so good to hear. I mean, that's what it's all about,
Yes.
helping one another, and especially the vulnerable groups. But we'll be back shortly on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. We're your only classic hit station in the country. Be sure to listen in to us. Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. I hope you're enjoying the program. I'm Louise Kaunisela, your host, and our guest in the studio today is the director of the NDMO, Vasiti Soko. So, yeah, just very interesting to find out everything. So you are, NDMO, generally happy with the relief efforts so far since TCIASA?
Yes, the government is very happy to see not only the effort that was made by other ministries as well as other partners, but the resilience of the Fijian people to ensure that their livelihood or they mobilize back to normalcy straight after TCIASA passed.
Yeah, quite fast. I mean,
very fast.
The way I see it, because we don't feel anything, we don't know. So do you have any stories that you might like to share of how people, reacted and, to the NDMO giving them relief rations?
There's a lot to share. There's a lot of good stories that we have been publishing from our the different social media platforms. I guess the interesting one that we have so far, as I'd mentioned, is in the Oneilau when they heard that they've been issued warning that the cyclone was that they were in the direct path of the cyclone. The youths of the village went around the individual homes. They got the elderly to move up first, and then they got the disability to move to the evacuation center. And then there was an emergency plan by the head teacher of the school nearby that was he was ensuring that they'd adhere to the emergency plan. So this goes back to the importance of building bridges outside cyclone season, running trainings, ensuring that the communities are aware of the nearest evacuation center, that they know what can Cat 4 do, what can Cat 5 do, to give them that level of understanding.
Yes, I mean, like you said, after Winston, a lot of lessons learned from that, because now we're getting cyclones, like really powerful winds. And I mean, to me, that's really scary. I mean, just imagine if you go to evacuation center and just come back and then your clothes are scattered everywhere, your roof is gone. It must be heartbreaking.
Yes.
Really heartbreaking. Yeah. So, but that's really good to know that the community are looking after each other.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fantastic. So for donations, I know that it came on FBC News, someone misunderstood you. And I actually spoke about it on air, how you had encouraged people to work through the NDMO to hand out, donations.
Yeah.
I mean, that was easy enough to understand, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because of the fact that you didn't want to duplicate assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm assuming this is the certification process. Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the reasons we this time around came about to do that, again, this is a lesson learned from Winston, where it was quite obvious that those that were even assisted, because they've assisted 3-4 times, that they were again selling what was donated to them to others.
See?
So this time around, we wanted to make sure that everyone is equally assisted.
Right.
And we did not ask for money. We did not ask for, the specification of your interest. All we wanted was where exactly are you going to donate to, and what are you taking? Because not everybody is the same. You'll always have those communities that falls in the gap that needs to be assisted. And this is what governments look for, to also assist, so that everybody is equally assisted this time around.
I mean, that just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so how long do you expect to be, doing all this response and recovery? Well, response is probably almost done. The recovery efforts and helping. How long do you think this is going to last? I mean, it's already, month and a day now since TCIASA?
That's right. We've also extended the declaration for the Northern Division. So we have completed initial declaration was for the whole of Fiji, as per the cyclone track map released by Department or the Fiji Meteorological Service. However, because of the impact of damage in the Northern Division, that has been extended an additional 30 days in the Northern Division. And as per the disaster phase and how we operate, we move into early recovery after response. That takes us 6 months. So now we have ministries that are developing their early recovery and resilient plan and submit to us. We'll submit it to Cabinet in regards to what it will take for them to, for the first 6 months, to to sort of bring some normalcy back to the respective audience that they look after. After early recovery, we then have rehabilitation.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long process. I mean, who feels it knows it all. Eh?
Yeah.
It didn't hit us, so we don't
true.
really know what's going on. So it's really good that you share with us, what's happening. And it takes 6 months. We have other ministries who are helping with seeds and all
Yes,
that
that's
for the
right.
farms, which is
Yeah.
good. But for the NDMO, this work is really 6 months after?
The 6 months, if you look at it, it will end shortly after the cyclone season.
Oh, yeah,
and then
cyclone season. We're still in the
we
cyclone
are still
season.
in the cyclone season.
I know,
And-
I've been just feeling all this heat, I'm just praying that we don't get another cyclone. But we'll come back for more on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. I'm your host, Louise Kaunisela, and my guest is from the National Disaster Management Office, the Director, Vasiti Soko. Thank you so much for taking out the time to talk to us today. And just before the break, I was talking about that we're still in the cyclone season, so we're not out of the woods yet, are we? No. So, just something that how do you plan going forward to get Fijians to prepare better for the incredibly strong cyclones we're getting now? And just a piece of advice from you.
Okay. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge and thank the people of Fiji for adhering to the warnings. The effort of the Fijian people reflected on the number of deaths that we had compared to what we had in Winston. Cat 5, same Cat 5. The difference is only Yasa made a landfall into the second biggest island in Fiji.
Yes.
And one would have assumed that the number of deaths would have been more than what Winston did. However, it was only just a percentage of what we had in Winston. That speaks volume of the resilient that the Fijian people has. So just a gentle reminder that we are still in the cyclone season. As of when we do make that announcement, your preparation plan or phases kicks in. The NDMO continues to push out messages about what to do in an event of a cyclone has been announced. And we will continue to work with the public to ensure that all level of preparations are adhered to.
Thank you so much. And just on donations, are you still receiving it to help people? Maybe you might like to tell us about, I think there's something that you have that if people want to donate, they can, is it the TCIASA Loloma package? Yeah. Right.
Sure. The TCIASA Loloma package is 30% of that. It was a consolidated effort between Fiji Airways, FRCS, and NDMO. Fiji Airways stepped in to support the effort of the affected communities by offering 30% discount on freight duty. Okay. As of when the items reach Fiji, it is all no cost from when it arrives to when we deliver it to the communities that are affected. So that's within the package of TCIASA.
Okay, so people are most welcome to keep donating now at this point. Have we had a lot of, lot of donations from where, overseas too?
Again, because majority of our overseas families are donating big. For them, they send containers, so a lot are still using ships. Mainly because of the size of items that they ship across. And yes, we have been working very closely with FRCS and biosecurity to ensure that everything that are brought into the country are safe for our environment as well. And those small ones that can, easily come into the plane, our overseas families have been utilizing that very well.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like the public to know moving forward before we finish our interview?
No, just just a gentle reminder again that we are still in the cyclone season. This will end in April, and we ask the members of the public to please ensure that in the event we issue a warning, to be mindful of those warnings. Also bearing in mind that we're in a La Nina season, which simply means we expect a lot of rain. But, climate change is changing a lot of things. Some of the unprecedented events that are happening now was not what we had anticipated. However, as the environment changes, so does the work that we do changes as well to ensure that we prepare the people of Fiji for those changes.
Well, thank you very much, the Director of the National Disaster Management Office. From the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure on behalf of the public, I would like to thank you for the good work that you've been doing.
Thank you.
And I know that you still have lots more of work to do. And I'll probably have you back later. And again, thank you, Vasiti, on Gold FM, only the classic hits. That's it for now. Until next Tuesday, you take care. Nisa Modemanda, and look out for each other.